Welcome in to Moving the Chains. I'm Kevin Thomas alongside Jerel Hendricks. Got a great interview lineup today for our ring season recap. A very special guest, the head coach of the 2022 4A state champion South Florence Bruins, Drew Marlowe. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are y'all?
Doing well, and we appreciate your time. We really do. This is you guys' first time tuning in. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube at Movin Chains, MOVINCHAINS. Our new website, movingchains.com, and our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. This was Coach Marlowe's third season as the head coach of the Bruins. They went 15-0 on their way to the state title. Coach, we really didn't get to see you guys play this year. What were maybe your kind of schemes and styles on offensive defense that you ran?
Defensively, we're a 3-4 reduction-based defense. Play a lot of cover 2, cover 3 behind that. Try to keep things pretty simple on defense. Let our kids be great athletes and play fast. And then offensively, we are at our core, we're a power run team. I like to use a lot of different formations, play with tight ends and fullbacks and stuff like that. Run a lot of gap schemes, power counter, and some buck sweep stuff. And then we were, a big play action pass, boot, take deep vertical shots. Kind of offense is what we ended up evolving into this year.
So, Coach, you guys got it done, obviously, going 15-0 on both sides of the ball. You averaged 48 points per game on offense, 15 on defense. Everyone knows you're all-world punter in LaNorris Sellers, but who are some other guys that led you guys along the way?
Yeah, not enough credit was given this year to our offensive line and our tight ends. They were dominant for most of the year. Everybody gets sort of enamored with, the 60-yard bombs that LaNorris is throwing. And don't get me wrong, that makes you better up front, right, when you've got the threat of those deep shots. But, our offensive line was phenomenal all year long. Hunter McCleary was our right tackle, 3-year starter for us. At right guard, we had we played a couple of guys there, but mostly it was Connor Jones. He was just a junior this year, but he was also a 3-year starter, started as a freshman for us. At center, we had Nate McGee, another 3-year starter. At left guard, we had Justin Joe, 3-year starter. He was just a junior, though, so he's coming back. And at left tackle, we had Zywan Sumter, who 2-year starter for us. He was a senior this year. So, and then at tight end and H-back, we had Rodney Lassane. He's just a junior. He'll be coming back. And we used a number of other guys kind of at the other tight end position. But those guys really, set the tone, I thought, for us for the whole year. We were able to, run the ball and be really physical doing it. And great players. Defensively, Jalen Davis and Trokel Prue anchored everything. And inside and outside linebacker, they were dominant. Both of them had over 100 tackles on the year. Jalen Davis played our field outside linebacker. He set our school record for sacks in the season with 17. And frankly, could have had a lot more than that probably. We pulled Jalen early in a lot of games. But those two guys really phenomenal on defense for us this year.
And, Coach, that was something, if you guys watched our show, I was hyping on all year long. I think I heard you preseason say that everybody knows about Sellers and the offense, but the defense could have been the strength of the team. And I felt like it, almost kind of was all year for you guys. And, those numbers that Jerel stated, 48 on offense, 15 on defense, did that allow you guys maybe to be more aggressive on one side of the ball or the other? Because knowing that the other side is going to pick you up and not have any issues, if you did put them in a bad spot at some place.
Yeah, I think so. I think that, I felt like that offensively, once we scored 21, we were going to win the game. I felt like, we scored 21, we're going to win. And, I think defensively, they felt the same way probably. We got into some tighter ball games at the end of the year, played against two, phenomenal offenses in AC Flora and Northwestern. And, those were games that we knew we were going to have to score a lot of points. But, I think that I think we were a good team this year. A lot of teams get divided between the offense and the defense, but I thought both sides really did a good job of complementing each other. And I think our kids really believed in each other, the offense and the defense and the defense and the offense.
Coach Marlowe, before we get into this season, I want to take a look back at last year. You guys really had it rolling. You had a great year, but you lost your leader, LaNorris Sellers. He goes down with an injury early. How did that kind of that experience from last year help build this year's team?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I bring that up with a lot of people that, you know, last year was a year that, you know, in our last year was year 2. And so in year 1, we wanted to set a standard and make sure everybody understood, you know, what it meant to play football here. Year 2, we needed to learn how to win. And you're right, we came out the gate pretty hot. LaNorris was, you know, pretty under the radar and you know, really let some people up early. Lost a tough triple overtime game at South Point. And then, you know, we lose LaNorris in the first quarter of the 5th game of the year. So we had to change. We had to evolve. We couldn't do the same things that we could do with LaNorris. And we had to learn how to win in spite of, you know, us not having our quarterback. We had to do it a different way. And we were able to win some games moving forward. We obviously struggled there at the end of the year, not being able to throw the ball. But that really established, I think, the dominance of our offensive line this year. We were so dependent on them and our defense. Our offensive line and our defense really, you know, if we were going to win games, it was going to be on their back. It wasn't going to be, we weren't able to create a lot of explosive plays. So in some ways, losing LaNorris last year, I think, set us up to be, you know, really good on defense and really good, you know, up front, just because of the way we had to go about winning last year after we lost them.
You guys play in a really tough region, that region 6-4A, you know, maybe arguably the toughest 4A region in the state. And on top of that, you had a heck of a non-region schedule too, with guys like South Point, Oceanside, Carolina Forest, et cetera. You know, you mentioned a couple of the tougher contests late in the year in the playoff run. How did your regular season schedule really help you kind of prepare for that?
Yeah, you know, I think that you always want to expose your teams to other good teams, you know, before their games that you have to win. And for us, our bye week falls at such a perfect time. You know, we play 5 non-region games, and we have a bye. Then we play 5 region games, and then we play 5 playoff games. So we kind of look at, you know, we've got 3 5-game seasons. You know, the first 5-game seasons is all about finding out who we are, what we're best at. And then I see region play as really the start of the playoffs, because that's where your seeding is going to be determined. And there is such a huge difference between being a 1 seed and being a 2 or a 3 seed. It really, really has a tremendous impact on, you know, your ability to go deep into the playoffs. And so when our region schedule starts, we feel like we need to know who we are, what we're good at, what we're not good at, and you know, really work to either A, get rid of the things we're not good at, or B, work really hard to improve on them. Because, you know, starting with every game matters, but, you know, starting with region play, that's going to determine, you know, kind of how your season's going to end. And so I thought it was great for our kids to be exposed to playing on bigger stages with Oceanside, Carolina Forest, and South Point in particular, and Goose Creek too. You know, we opened up the season at Goose Creek. That was a tough little stretch there where we were in a lightning delay until about 9:30, had to drive home and then drive back Saturday to play again, just to be in another lightning delay. But yeah, I think that our non-region schedule really prepared us for the rest of the year.
All right, Coach. So let's look. You said you broke your season down, and you ended up that first part of your season against South Point. South Point was a team that was number 1 at the time. They had blown out Gaffney. You know, everyone was really, really high on them, and you guys, looking for a better term, you took them behind the woodshed before that bye week. How much confidence did that give your bunch, or were you expecting that type of performance?
I expected us to play really well. I did not expect us to win 42-7. I would be lying if I said I was. You know, really, you know, leading up into that game, we had not played well. We played really well against Goose Creek to open up the season, and then we had two games there with Oceanside and Orangeburg that we played well below, you know, our standard and what, you know, I believe we were. Played a pretty good game against Carolina Forest, but, you know, I think that our kids I'll say this. Our kids had a lot more confidence going into the South Point game than I did. But they gave me a lot of confidence, too, in the way that they just approached the week. We had the best week of practice that we've had since I've been here that week. Extremely focused and very much. We didn't talk about South Point. We didn't talk about, our game against them last year. We didn't talk about them being the defending state champs or being ranked #1. We talked all week about us and what we had to do to be the very best that we could be, that Friday night. And I think when the game was over, I was a little surprised. I mean, our kids were excited, don't get me wrong, but they were very, I got the feeling they very much expected that to happen, and there wasn't a huge, celebration. I mean, our fans kind of went crazy, but, our kids were very, I was kind of worried about, after that game, kind of how we would react, but it was the same all the way through. Our kids were super confident. When you got a group that's like that, you're hard to beat,
Looking back at the 4A state championship game, a 57-30 victory over Northwestern out of the upper state, what did you guys do so well that allowed you to kind of pull away late in that ball game and get that victory?
Yeah, well, first of all, our defense finally started playing a little bit better. We did not play well in the first half on defense. I was not pleased with our defensive performance. We knew they were a tempo team. They got us with tempo some. They got us with some different formations that we did not get lined up to quickly enough. We played really bad on defense in the first half. Frankly, we weren't getting lined up fast enough and just didn't play well. And so I think it was really back and forth for maybe the first. I think we both scored touchdowns on our first 3 or 4 possessions each, something like that. I don't think anybody punted until midway through the second quarter. But really, we just kind of tightened up on defense a little bit. They were a good defensive team too. All kind of like us, everybody kind of went to their offense because they were scoring so many points, and they had 7 out there at receiver who was a really great player, but their defense was really good too, and they were young. They're going to be an extremely tough team to beat for the next year or two. They got a sophomore defensive tackle who's as good as anybody we played against this year. But we finally started stopping them on defense. That's what allowed us to pull away. I mean, I know that sounds simple, but started stopping them, and then we sputtered a little bit in the third quarter on offense. But we were able to put it together, enough at the end, create some explosive plays, and I think that our run game finally kind of warmed down a little bit for us to be able to score a couple of rushing touchdowns there late in the game.
Well, that's a tough bunch to stop, so there's no shame in that. So you just say, it was tough to stop them, so that's no easy task. But moving on, we heard you tell a great story about LaNorris Sellers and that last touchdown pass in the championship game. If you don't mind telling the listeners, how that play came about with that story.
Yeah. So they went for it on 4th down, and the game was over. It was 50-30 at this point. I think there was maybe 2.5 minutes or so left. Ran a play, got a good positive gain, and then got a penalty. Anyways, it ends up as 3rd long, and I let the clock run all the way down, and I called timeout. And I was just kind of thinking when they were coming over to the side, it was 3rd and like 15 or 18 something. It was 3rd and a long way. He came over and just looked at me, and I just said, all right. I said, this is going to be, your last high school play. What do you want it to be? And he said, I want to throw the fade to Evan Singletary. He and Evan have grown up playing football together since they were 10 years old in rec league here in Florence. And he said that's what he wanted his last play to be. And I said, all right, go do it. And as they turned to, go out there on the field to do it, I yelled out there. I said, "Don't! That's your last high school play being incompletion now." And so they dropped back, and I know a lot of people, particularly probably Northwestern people, weren't happy, and my intent was not to run up the score or, anything like that. It was a kid who has had a phenomenal career, who's had the largest impact probably of any human being on this school. And one of the larger impacts on, Florence School District in general, letting him have that last play, I thought was important, and I'll take all the criticism that comes with it. But that was special to see, for those two to make that last play happen and just kind of, put a punctuation on the end of that game and end of our season was really cool and really special for me to watch.
You guys won the first football state championship in South Florence history. And that night, it was just an awesome atmosphere. I mean, your crowd filled up the side. I mean, really, it was a great, crowd on both sides, really. But what did this season mean, not only to your program, but really to the whole Florence community?
Yeah, well, it meant a lot to our program, first and foremost, because of just, how far we've come in 3 years, I think. For the South Florence community, I think that, make sure I say this the right way. I think that for a long time, Florence has had good football, but nothing special. Wilson won a state championship in 2007. And I think with the exception of that, very few, 10-win years, very few deep playoff runs, very few big games, if you will. And I think that, we built new stadiums at all 3 high schools. This has been just our 2 years ago. This was just our second year, playing in our own stadium. And I think that created a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz, and our superintendent, deserves a lot of credit for, bringing big time football to Florence. And that was something that, kind of got people interested. And then, we start winning and, carried a big crowd there to Columbia for the state championship game. I think it meant a lot to our community. I think that it creates a lot of pride in your community when, you have a team that's being recognized, on a big stage, on a larger level, we'll say that, than normal. So I think it's been really, really good for everybody in Florence.
You mentioned earlier in the interview, you gained momentum, obviously, from the successful season you guys had last year, but every team is different. When did you know in particular that this team would be special? Not necessarily, knowing that they would go undefeated, but you knew that they were a really special group.
At the beginning of January last year, when we started, working out in the weight room, we're pretty tough on our guys. So is everybody, but we try to create a lot of adversity in the weight room and try to make it really, really, really hard. January, February, March in particular. Our strength coach, Sean Armstrong, does a really great job with that. But the way that they handled the workload and the way that, I thought that they were developing as a team, I knew that this was going to be a special year. I mean, honestly, I knew this was going to be a special year 2 years ago. I remember getting ready to scrimmage Carolina Forest, and Ian Guerrero was down there, and we were talking. And I told him that I thought we were going to be pretty good, that year. But I said, Ian, in 2 years, we're going to explode. I said, we're going to shock a lot of people. And, just because of the talent that we had. Now, you can have a lot of talent and not do well. But, this group of seniors really did a great job of, stepping up, becoming leaders, holding, themselves accountable, holding everybody around them accountable. And it was just an extremely focused group. They knew what they wanted to do. They knew what they wanted to achieve. And every week they went out and they did what they had to do. All the credit in the world goes to our kids and the work they put in and what they did to do something special this year.
Well, Coach, got a couple easier ones here before we let you get out for the day. So maybe it's either in your office before the game or on the bus ride. What's on your pregame playlist you're trying to get hyped up for Friday night?
I'll disappoint you a little bit. I don't listen to music a whole lot on Fridays. I try to. I'm pretty hyped. I try to stay calm. To be honest with you, I used to be drinking those energy drinks and all that kind of stuff. Now I try to make sure I just drink. I'm pretty hype. I don't need any help with that. I need to be calm. So honestly, I normally read or listen to a book on tape. I like reading books and listening to books, and so I usually actually, on the bus or, in that time before a game, I try to distract myself, honestly, and try to not think about the game a little bit. So no game day playlists.
Love it. Classic Moving the Chains question. We're coming now to a game in South Florence, which we were able to do a couple times this year. Where are we stopping pregame to get a good meal in that area?
Toll Brothers.
Okay.
Without a doubt. That is my favorite place to eat in Florence. It's great food, great people, and they've got 2 locations. So
So what's your go-to meal?
I love their barbecue chicken and the macaroni and the green beans.
Okay.
They've also got good wings and good brisket. stuff like that. So they've got a good variety there.
That works for me.
So, Coach, I don't know if you're on this committee or not. I'm going to assume you're not here. But who would your vote have gone to for Mr. Football this year?
Golly. Yeah. I'm not sure if I'll get in trouble for criticizing this or not, but I don't really care. That was unbelievable. Yeah. I'm not saying the boy, that won it's not a good player, but good grief. LaNorris Sellers is the best football player in the state this year, and one of the best football players that's played in this state in a long time.
Most definitely. Like I said, we got to come down to your new stadium. But for those who did not get the opportunity to do so, what makes it so special? And can you kind of describe that atmosphere that you guys have at Bruins Stadium each Friday night?
Yeah. What makes it special for us at South Florence is that it's our own. When you share a stadium with 3 other schools well, I guess Florence has done that forever, but it's a terrible environment over there. Number one, there's no branding, there's no nothing, on the 50 or, painted on the field is the district logo, which is, fine. But, the fact that our logo and our branding is everywhere. I mean, it is everywhere in that stadium, makes it special to us, makes it feel like it's our own. I think the next thing is just that it's not too big, in high school now. I mean, let's be honest, you don't have 10,000 people that go to games anymore. You do here and there, every now and then when, Gaffney and Burns are both really good, you might. But, for the most part, I think our stadium is the perfect size. It seats about 5,000. And so when our side is full, it feels full, and it's, a really great environment. Our students did a better job this year of, creating an atmosphere that, was exciting to play in. We had a couple of games this year that were really, really packed and, really full of people. And so it's been really nice to have.
Well, Coach, this has been great. Definitely all of our listeners to go check out Coach Marlowe and the Bruins program on Twitter, Facebook, etc. They do a great job with stats and highlights and notes to keep you guys tuned in on that type of stuff. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, etc. Like I mentioned earlier, movingchains.com. Jerel, anything else for Coach before we let him go this morning?
I just want to say continued success, Coach. Had a lot of fun this year covering your program. And not just, your special talent, LaNorris Sellers. Everybody you guys had. Truly, I would say one of the most complete teams that we were able to watch this season, and got to go down to that new stadium. If anyone's in that area, go check out and support these programs. It was a lot of fun, a lot of energy. We got to see 2 big games that we thought on paper you guys blew them out because you were so good this season. But just continued success. Looking forward to see the trajectory of your program as you continue to build down there, and just really excited for the future.
Thanks so much, guys. And I want to say this too. Thank y'all so much for what you guys do to promote, high school athletics. It's really special when you guys come because, our kids get so excited about it. I personally appreciate, the positive exposure, that our kids get from you guys. And I'd never really watched, what y'all do, put it all together. But after the season, I went through and watched, our stuff. Then I found myself watching other teams, and this is really fantastic. So this was a brilliant idea, whichever one of you two came up with it. And thank you so much for what you do to promote our kids and promote our programs.
Well, Coach, we appreciate the kind words. That's awesome to hear, and we really appreciate your time today. And look forward to catching up with you again either this offseason or early next year at some point.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Coach.